Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Starting off the live stream and the super chat, Ringing Constitutional. Thank you so very much for always starting it off. I can't thank you enough. It gets me going, gets me pumped up, and I just want to thank you so much, Ringing Constitutional. To my super chat, thank you so much. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like very wealthy Democratic socialists who, by the way, have a discrimination case ongoing. Nobody's talking about that, interestingly enough. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to give you my honest viewpoint on a lot of things. So the truth is that President Trump is running in 2024. He has to wait until 2024. There won't be any type of if you want to say, instatement. That's not happening. It won't happen next month. It won't happen the month after. It won't happen until hopefully 2024 when he has a Republican Party that backs him. When you look back and when Americans look back and they say, okay, well, we had record low unemployment with President Trump. This is a fact. Wealth inequality is worse now than it was during President Trump's tenure. This is a fact. Prior to last year, we had a soaring economy, record low Black and Latino unemployment, record low unemployment, wage increases. Wages were increasing faster than at any point within the past decade. You had President Trump that negotiated a deal to bring Americans home, which is what President Biden is hopefully doing. And we know from today, there's news that he's bringing Americans home. That's President Trump's major accomplishment. And let's put it this way. Our beloved President Biden cannot take credit for that. That he got us there by voting alongside Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. That's another fact. The Lincoln Project is within the Democratic Party. The Bush foreign policy hawks are embedded within the Democratic Party. So Trump did a great thing. He did a lot of great things. His foreign policy, Trump single-handedly reversed U.S. foreign policy. His foreign policy was infinitely better than anything Democrats had to offer today or in 2016. You had President Trump allocating more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. Ringing Constitutional, thank you again for starting it off. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. And I think that if you have a Republican Party that actually backs President Trump, that actually supports a Republican president, like when they say, well, Trump cost Senate seats, these are the same senators who stood idly by while Trump was being investigated. Ringing Constitutional, thank you again. To my super chat, thank you. Eric, Luke, two best moderators in all of YouTube, thank you. You simply can't investigate a president of your political party and then claim that he's at fault. You simply can't investigate a president of your political party and then claim he's at fault for losing congressional seats. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way, sorry. And you look, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is you have these fact checks, these fact-checking articles. Ringing Constitutional, thank you again as always. These fact-checking articles, and you have this like, just want to let you know, like most people, most Americans. Oh, by the way, if you hear my voice on any YouTube channel, please report that channel and tell YouTube that they're illegally and unlawfully using my voice. and that I only have two channels, H.A. Goodman and H.A. Goodman's other channel. So I only have this channel and H.A. Goodman's other channel. So I would appreciate that if you could do that. If you ever hear my voice on some kind of YouTube channel saying things that I am not saying. So he's not going to be like, he's not Napoleon, returning from Elba. Thank you, Ring and Constitutional. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. He's simply not going to, he has to wait. And the thing is, President Trump can reclaim the Oval Office if he has a Republican Party that actually backs and supports him. The reason we have a dysfunctional political climate, it's actually not the Democratic Party's fault. I keep telling this to everybody, Ring and Eric, Paul, everybody here. I tell this to everybody. If somebody, God forbid, threw you into shark-infested waters, would you blame the sharks if you're what's for dinner? Would you blame the sharks? No, you wouldn't. You would actually blame the person who threw you into, the shark-infested waters where you have a whole bunch of great white sharks waiting for lunch or dinner or breakfast. You wouldn't blame the animal, would you? You wouldn't say, my God, this hungry lion. I mean, really, the nerve of this, frightened elephant. I don't know. You would say, well, why did you, if we're on a safari, why'd you throw me off the Jeep? And then I had, I had a whole bunch of hungry lions or, a rhinoceros, come after me. You wouldn't blame the animal. So what I'm trying to say is, don't blame the Democratic Party for what's going on. It's not, Republicans would do the same thing. Well, I don't know. Actually, they did do this. They did do the same thing in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, you had media. You had CNN actually siding with the Bush Republican Party. You basically, look, in the early 2000s, you have pretty much the same paradigm or the dynamic, the same type of situation as you have now. Thank you, Matt, the Mad Botanist. Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt, the Mad Botanist. I appreciate that. You had the same type of situation. You had irrational leaps of logic. You're either with us or you're against us. The Bush administration was the blueprint for today's Democratic Party. George W. Bush was the blueprint for today's liberal Democratic Party establishment. That's why you have the Lincoln Project and Bill Kristol, all Bush's foreign policy hawks, firmly embedded within the Democratic Party. This is their type of politics. And they have, you have loyalists within government agencies. You have a symbiotic relationship we learned from the Inspector General between bureau officials and agents and other intel officials and media. They're getting gifts, they're getting dinners, they're getting invited to plays and sporting events and functions. Do you think that I would be the life at the party, in like this, posh Hollywood function? Oh, what do you do? Oh, I have a YouTube channel. Really? What would he talk about? I like Trump. You like what? Get him out. Security! Security! Give me that sushi. Right now. Do you think that I would be the life of the party?
Well, I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. And according to the Washington Post and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, now I have a very successful YouTube channel. It's almost at 200,000 subscribers. And I like President Trump, and I look at everything from the vantage point of Debbie Wasserman Schultz being forced to resign. Well, what's the problem? Why are you looking at me like that? No. But if you work for the United States government, and you're invited to, these functions, these dinner parties, Paul Bartlett, thank you. If you're invited to like dinner parties with, think about it this way, okay? You're Richard Burr, senator from North Carolina. You're part of the Senate. You're head of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Okay? You've investigated Donald Trump, a Republican president. Check this out. A Republican president you've investigated for 4 years. You played ball with the Democratic Party and the establishment, and you did what you were supposed to do. And you had stock trades right after a classified briefing, meaning, I don't know, you might have gotten information during that classified briefing to let you know that maybe it was a good time to sell stocks. Maybe, just maybe, I know it was a coincidence. You're just, really good at timing the market, which, it's so easy to time the stock market. Not. It's impossible. If you miss like 4 or 5 days during a year, or if you miss like 10 or 12 days in a 3-year span of market gains, you've missed, you lose essentially like 60 or 70%, something like 60% of all the gains you could make. If you time the market wrong and you lose about 10 to 15 days of tremendous increases within the stock market, any stock market, it's very difficult to time anything in terms of stocks. But you think they're going to go after Richard Burr? No. If you're a New York Times journalist or a Washington Post, or even better, an editor, if you're a New York Times editor or Washington Post editor, or if you are a high-level manager or, the top brass at Facebook or Twitter, and you are invited to a Washington, D.C. function where you have, top producers at CNN or MSNBC or the Democratic National Committee, or you have, even some Hollywood producers there. And then you have, incidentally, some FBI agents there. Or intelligence chiefs or whatever. You think anyone there is, I think I'll vote for Trump? Not. Not. You are not going to be popular. So you have to ask yourself, I even forgot my point. You have to ask yourself, a lot of the people who, like, for example, I talked about the Durham probe, and you have these bureau agents who accepted gifts and made unauthorized contacts. They hinted at, they probably disseminated information detrimental to Trump. they probably hello, Paul. They probably had information on investigations detrimental to President Trump, and everyone's talking about what Trump could have done, and everyone's talking about how, thank God, Biden's president, and everyone's talking about how, we need to protect society from the orange menace. Then you have 74 million Americans who don't trust the entire American political establishment because they're continually caught in lies. When you want to start a commission for the horrible tragedy in January, and you don't want to start a commission, or you don't care about, or you try to mitigate or downplay $1 to $2 billion in property damage because it doesn't fit your narrative, because doing so would actually hurt you politically, 25 lives lost, curfews every night, and then you say, well, that had nothing to do with the Democratic Party. Well, what political side benefited? What political side was actively trying to, bail out protesters, fiery but peaceful? You had CNN journalists with buildings set ablaze behind them. It's fiery but peaceful. They couldn't acknowledge the carnage and the mayhem and the chaos and the perpetual clashes between law enforcement and very, very peaceful advocates, First Amendment advocates. They couldn't acknowledge it because it would hurt them politically. They can't acknowledge a lot of things. And you have a situation like Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. Why? You will never in a million years get a Democrat to acknowledge that. It is physically and psychologically and emotionally impossible for them to simply say, yeah, there's corruption within our political party. It's always, well, Republicans are worse. Like, no, they're not. Trump being president is proof that Republicans aren't worse than Democrats when it comes to that type of thing. Because the Republicans didn't want Trump. See, the Democrats didn't want Bernie Sanders, and they got exactly what they wanted. Until Clinton lost, and then it was blame Russia for 4 years. Then it was just blame Russia for 4 years, and oh my God. This is, like I say, it's a battle for emotion. He's going to run in 2024. See, the one thing I will say that, not that like they have a point, but like Democrats are right that, or media is right that it is nonsensical to believe that Trump could be, installed. Even if you do find massive misconduct, he still wouldn't be. But see, it's not good because it's the same type of message board nonsense I warned people about 3 years ago. I said, don't believe that nonsense. Yeah, there's a double standard. It's not going to last forever. You think that all of American media and every social media company and all the algorithms are always going to side with Democrats? It's not always going to happen. It might take 5 years, 10 years. It could even take 20 years. I don't think it will take that long because things happen a lot, more quickly. Things happen at light speed in this day and age. But look at the difference between 2000 or 2001 and 2021. In 20 years, the pendulum has swung from Bush Republicans and the Washington Post and New York Times and CNN siding with George W. Bush to an even more overt bias among media against Trump. And the reason is because you don't have a functioning Republican Party. I think that was what I was trying to say. If Republicans pretend, so they'll get 2022, Trump Republicans will get the House of Representatives. If they're able to get the House of Representatives, which I think they will, it's a whole new ballgame. Then things start changing. You're not going to have things start changing when you actually offer the country, if you offer Americans a different political viewpoint, if you offer Americans an alternative. So now, like, you're seeing these things in society, or like, you have these bizarre, you have this, like for example, with Falsey, why is it that only Rand Paul and Trump and Ron Johnson? You have what? We have what? Well over 130 Republicans. Hold on one second. 50 in the Senate. $211 Republicans in the House of Representatives. Okay? You have, in the Senate, you have what, 49 Republicans. So, was it? Yeah, 48, 49. Let me see here. So, why is it you only have... Why is it that you only have... Oh, you have 50 Republicans. It's not working. Okay. Rafal 33, thank you. You have 211 Republicans in the House. And you have 50 Republicans in the Senate. You only have Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, and maybe sometimes Ted Cruz, maybe. But you only have 2 people making an issue with Falsey. 2 people going head up against... Because he represents the entire American political establishment. Only 2 people? You mean to tell me there's only 2 Republicans? You mean to tell me there are only 2 Republicans in all of Congress? There are only 2 Republicans in all of Congress who have the courage to go up against the entire American political establishment and try to find the origins of a devastating global catastrophe. You mean there's only 2 Republicans? Where's Mitt Romney? Is he okay with... Is he just fine with everything? This is why Trump has 74 million Americans. One of the reasons. Republicans do not offer a different viewpoint. They don't offer a different viewpoint. They don't offer a different viewpoint. They just are silent. They're like ghosts. They're like, invisible. And President Trump is out there saying things they're too cowardly to say. If he goes overboard, he goes overboard. But it's like there are missteps that Trump has made. Fine. But he offers a different vantage point. Rand Paul, Ron DeSantis, DeSantis, Ron Johnson offer a different vantage point. And that's what Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, they offer a different vantage point. That's the thing. It's like you can't go ahead. You can't go ahead and you can't expect to have a functioning democracy if Paul, hello. You can't go ahead and have a functioning democracy if one political party always sides with the other. It's basically Democrats and Republicans versus Trump. And then you have media, and I keep saying this, they've actually given up on just, like, most of the time they've given up on reporting events. It's usually just, we're going to report this event, and by the way, if it coincides with anything that would benefit Trump politically, just remember that, honestly, you don't have to trust him because, here's the Democratic Party viewpoint. Here's the Democratic Party viewpoint. You don't have to, you really don't have to trust, anything that, any story that might actually benefit Trump. So if there's an anomaly here or there, or, a bizarre occurrence, or, oh my God. He's going to run. Yes, it's pretty much official. Who do you think's going to run? I like DeSantis. Who do you think's going to run? There's nobody else. Mitt Romney? Mittens Romney. The good Republican. Mitt Romney is a good Republican. You know what? Honestly, you know what? Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney should run again. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan should run again. That would be good. That would be fantastic. That would be good. Then Republicans could lose by 30 million votes. And then they'll go back to Trump. Trump will be 90 years old, but they'll go back to him. Eventually, he would be what? Let's see. If Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan ran 75, he would be like 85 years old, going on 85, no problem. It's fine. It'll take, who knows what it'll take for, who knows what it will take for the Republican Party to actually defend. And here's the thing. People say, well, how can you defend Trump? He's just so out there. It's like, well, what, you think? So when Democrats blame him, accuse him of working with Russia, how many Democrats do you think didn't believe that nonsense? How many Democrats do you think actually said, well, I'm just going to go fall in line with it? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and regurgitate. Here's an example. This is why 74 million Americans voted for Trump, and the majority of the country don't trust media or the Democratic Party, because the favorability ratings for Democrats rival President Trump's, and that's with every single late night talk show host spewing liberal and Democratic Party talking points. So, you have 51 Texas Republicans that left to Washington D.C. Okay, you have 51 then they're labeled as heroes. They're labeled as civil rights heroes, and it's like, what? How on earth? Democrats don't even have a functioning primary. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. Literally, the head of their political party resigned for cheating a candidate within their own primary. Then they blamed Russia for people finding out, but it was they who wrote the emails. And now you have 51 Democrats, 6 of whom, by the way, got you know what. 6 of whom got you know what. And so, like, what good did it do? Then you have the governor saying if we're going to arrest you when you come back. So that'll be interesting. That will be so. Could you imagine he arrests, like, I mean, I kind of feel bad, like they got you know what, 6 of them, and then they get arrested. It's like, that's probably wasn't a good idea. But you don't have a functioning political party. There's no functioning political party. That's the thing. Ringing constitutional. Thank you again. Thank you again. That's the issue. They don't have. It's not like. They don't have like a. See, we're not. Usually, throughout U.S. history, or throughout the history of any country, there are 2 opposing political parties, or numerous political parties that oppose one another, but there's a choice. See, there are viewpoints, like if you watch this channel, I back everything up with reputable sources. That's why President Trump should have gone on, the Daily Wire, Joe Rogan, Brandon Tatum. Like, he should have done those things. He should have thought outside the box, or he could have, if he didn't want to go to any YouTube channels, he could have gone on Fox News every week, like had a weekly address. Because there are people who have an opposing viewpoint on a number of like almost every topic with Democrats. They're there. I'm left-leaning on certain things, but generally, I like President Trump, and I support his viewpoints on a whole bunch of things, especially foreign policy. And especially, I look at politics and I say, okay, the playing field is not level, and you have almost everything leveled against one man, or one political party, or one viewpoint. I should say one man, Trump. This is like, I swear to God, I don't get this. I don't get this at all. You have people who look at Trump and they say, oh, his personality is horrible. It's horrendous. Cristobal, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope all is well. You have this. You have people who are even conservative, and they say, Trump is deranged. He's just he's deranged, and they can't differentiate between an act or Trump's personality just trying to be, like engaging in an act that serves to just kind of troll the Democratic Party in a way, or morally superior liberal Democrats. Does he go overboard? Sometimes, yeah, but they can't differentiate between the Hollywood element of his personality or the shtick and like what he's actually trying to do or say. If it's our beloved President Biden, he could go on this, he could like speak in tongues basically, and everyone's like, oh, who cares? He's fine. But let's just read this here. This is actually pretty funny. So, I read a little bit of this. I read a little bit of this. Last live stream. And it's kind of hilarious, actually. So, Here it is. Hold on one second. Why I'm sure Trump will run for president in 2024. This is by Michael Wolff, who tore into Brian Stelter. And I think in kind of an unfair manner, which is funny because everything he said was true. But Michael Wolff is also very similar to Brian Stelter in many ways. His books have this sanctimonious theme to them. It's always like, oh, I wrote these books, revealing how dysfunctional Trump is. But here, Wolff is the author of 3 books about the Trump presidency. By the way, every book about the Trump president did he do anything good? Or were 74 million people apparently were duped? Like, I want to know what our beloved President Biden has done. There are things that, like, because he's forced to do them, like bring home Americans. That's President Trump negotiated that. So that's good that it is good that he So that's good. He's bringing home Americans. And the interpreters. That's good. Very good. But if it wasn't for the Trump presidency, there's no way we would be on course to do this. But I want to read this to you because this is interesting. This is hilarious. Why I'm sure Trump will run for president in 2024. This was today in the New York Times. Okay, he's running when everybody who despises Trump is worried that he's running again. He's running. But this is hilarious. To write 3 books in 4 years about Donald Trump has been an immersion into his obsessions and fixations. You wrote 3 books about one man. Who has the obsession and fixation here? Obviously, it's very lucrative. This is why I know the obvious. Donald Trump will run for president again this spring in another of his compulsive bids for attention. Another of his compulsive bids for attention. Like, God forbid, he just is a politician. They still don't believe that Trump ever served as president. You know that? They don't believe it ever happened. They think that he stumbled upon the Oval Office. Like it was an accident and they had to just rectify the situation and investigate him on baseless allegations for 4 years. They don't believe that they actually don't believe that he became president. This spring, and yet in another of his compulsive bids for attention, indifferent to whether it is good or bad, he hosted me at Mar-a-Lago, even after I had written 2 unflattering books about him, one whose publication he tried to stop for an interview and dinner. So, this is the type of journalist. This is what we're talking about. You're being invited. You're going to dinner. You're going to have hopefully a cordial interaction, and of course, it's going to serve as, fuel to just continually disparage Trump. So after dinner, I asked him about his plans for a presidential library, the traditional retirement project and fundraising scheme of ex-presidents. There was a flash of confusion on his uniquely readable face, and then anger, aroused, I presume, by the implication of what I seemed to be saying, that his time in office was past. No way, he snarled. We were having a good dinner, and you brought up that? No way. I'm trying. No way, he snarled. No way. You just can't have You just simply can't have like a normal, like Trump is like incapable of any normal behavior. They see him to be this like this creature. He's basically a this like creature that morphed into a human being and became like this extraterrestrial that only wants to, like, you know, eat up worlds. What's his name? It's like what's his name? And then Trump turned that into, and then the creator of the character was like, "Oh, I just want to let you know, I don't like what he did." It's an existential predicament. Check this out. Say, God forbid, the man simply wants to run. Hello, are you? God forbid the man simply wants to run for president again. Oh my God. Wow, that would be the end of the world. It's an existential predicament. He can't be Donald Trump without a claim on the presidency. He was his first foray into politics. He won the highest office in the world. He can't hold the attention and devotion of the Republican Party if he's not both once and future king. If he decided not to run, most Republicans would beg him to run. You hear that the opposite is the case? The Republican Party has nothing it offers people or the country that's drastically different from the Democratic Party. And the second that it ever does, if Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan were to ever ruffle the feathers of the Democratic establishment, they would be worse than Trump. They would be worse than Trump, do you understand? If Mitt Romney was an actual obstacle, like a worthy adversary of Democrats, you would see headlines, you know what, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Trump is better. You know, Trump is actually better. You know why? Because, at the end of the day, he was such a buffoon, he couldn't do anything right. But Romney has a chance to really harm this country. Everything is hyperbolic. And whenever, like, it's not so much they don't like Trump, it's that they know that Trump is a worthy adversary. And if they have to actually work to get votes, it's like the worst thing for them. They can't stand it. They can't stand actually communicating all the good things that they plan on doing, because there aren't many policies they have that really get people going. The policies that the left really wants, the Democrats don't want. So they're in an existential predicament of their own. Then they say, well, demographics are moving towards the Democratic Party. Then why did President Trump win 4 years ago? And then why did he defeat Clinton? And why did he get a greater percentage of the non-white vote than any Republican in 60 years? And a greater percentage than 2016. He can't hold the attention and devotion of the Republican Party if he is not both once and future king. Most Republicans want him to run again, and why would he ever give that up? Indeed, it seems to be that I was strategically seated in the lobby of Mar-a-Lago when I arrived, precisely so I could overhear the efforts of a Republican delegation. This is like, Deep Space Nine, or like Star Trek or something. A Republican delegation. The Republican delegation from outer space. All right, so indeed, it seemed to be that I was strategically seated in the lobby of Mar-a-Lago when I arrived, precisely so I could hear the efforts by a Republican delegation to court and grovel before Mr. Trump, and to observe his dismissive dominance over them. My God, dude. This is unbelievable. What do you think happens if you disagree at all with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer on any topic within the Democratic Party, and you are not you don't have the same level of political influence as they do. You get completely steamrolled. What do you think happens? The Democrats walk in lockstep with one another. They demand complete obedience and allegiance, and they get hooked up. They don't get investigated. Media doesn't cover their wrongdoings or misconduct or potential illegal activity. They get hooked up, but it's like like a complete like racket and cult. So he goes on to say, okay, so more than a bit of subsequent conversation with me was about his contempt for any Republican who might be less than absolute in his or her devotion to him. This is something that it's really like you need, like I think the world could use my perspective as a former hardcore Bernie Sanders supporter, a person who was called the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. You couldn't get more of a political machine than the Democratic Party. They actually demand allegiance and blind obedience. That's why when Biden told Charlemagne the God what he did, you ain't who you are if you don't vote for me, that's worse than anything Trump has ever said. But it was immediately excused. I mean, they project what they're guilty of all the time. They project all the time what they're guilty of. It's really unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Indy, thank you. I'm going to head on out to my super chat. Ringin Constitutional, thank you so very, very, very much. All right, so I'm going to report that. Giacomo, thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I will be back tomorrow. I do appreciate your support, everyone. Thank you. And I might have I probably have an upload in the morning. I won't have one now. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Thank you so much, very much, everybody. God bless. Eric, H526. Luke, thank you so very much. Eric, thank you. And I will talk to you all tomorrow, everyone.